Greetings, Houdini Python students. This next session we're going to cover is Houdini Python animation. Now, keyframes in Houdini are fairly straightforward and simple. Although there are technically two classes, you can really obtain information only on the subclass who.keyframe, which inherits everything from its parent, who.base keyframe. Now, there may be other animation types in the future, such as string keyframes, but this is all that exists currently. Now, if you can remember from our prior lesson, keyframe information can only be obtained from our parameters. What we're looking at here are the channels for the rotations of that ball. The Rx corresponds to the magenta curve, Ry is green, and Rz is this kind of blue one. So I'm going to grab my Python shell and I'm going to say create a variable RZ, which for the rotation of Z equals, and I'm going to grab the rotation. I'm going to designate it right to this guy, and then I want the second index, number 2, which corresponds to the RZ channel. Of course, if I wanted X, that would be index 0, and Y would be index 1. Now, the method for getting a tuple of all the keyframes for that channel is keyframes. So I'm going to say keys equals RZ dot keyframes. All right, now that returned a tuple of all the keyframes to the keys variable. To iterate through those, I'm going to take a look at them. For key in keys, print key. All right, now that we have what we want now is going to be, you see that there are 5 keyframes for this. What we want is actually the 4th one, but that is index 3 because it starts at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3. I want the index 3rd, so I'm going to say key 4 equals keys index of 3. All right, key 4. All right, we take a look at this one and this one, and it looks like we do have a match. Okay, now let's get on to the keyframe methods. Now, if we wanted to find out what keyframe that corresponds to, this key4 dot keyframe, it's just, I'm sorry, the method is frame. That returns the current keyframe that it's on. You see it's sitting on keyframe 165. Now, if we want to find the time, key4.time, that returns the time of the keyframe, but in seconds. Now, in my Houdini session here, it's set to 124 frames a second. So 165 divided by 24 is approximately 6.833. Now, if we wanted to take a look at the expression driving that, we'll take a look, use the expression method, key4.expression. All right, now it returns a Bezier curve. And now if we wanted to return the language or check out the language, we would say key4 expression language. And we see that it is Python. Now we can set these values. We can, we can also check out what the value, the slope, and the acceleration are. So what the value at that point is key4.value. And there it is a value of 360. Its slope is key4.slope is negative 778 at that point, and key4.excel is 279 at that keyframe. Now, those values, the value, the slope, and the acceleration are the values of that keyframe leaving that particular keyframe, not actually going in, it's leaving. Now, if we wanted to change anything about this, we could just use the set command, and it is set whatever. Now, if we wanted to change the expressions from Bezier splines to regular just splines, we could call them use the set expression. So key4 dot set expression. All right, now I'm going to use the spline and the expression language Python arguments, which will tell us exactly what to create. Now the input for that method is the new expression and then the new language, and we're just going to keep it as Python. Now likewise, we can always use set value, set slope, or set acceleration to do very much the same. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the value. See, right now it's at let's see, 360. I want to set it to just basically 500. So I'm going to say key4.set value equals, let's call it 450. Make it nice and easy. Now you notice that every time we say set here, nothing actually changed to the keyframe. That is because the keyframes method does not actually return a reference to the keyframe. It only returns a copy. So for the adjustment to stick, we actually have to use the set keyframe method back within the actual parameter itself. So the parameter is RZ, that we set is RZ, and say set RZ.set keyframe. And we've been working on the key4 keyframe. And now you see that it made a jump and there was an adjustment now. Now there is a time here. You see that this little angle coming in is not the incoming slope does not correspond to the outcoming slope, and it's broken at that time, and that's called the value of being tied. And we can check if the acceleration, the slope, or the value is tied at that keyframe. So I'm going to test key4. So is key4, is the accel tied? And it says it's false because, as we can see, it is very much broken. Now we can set the incoming value, slope, or acceleration to a new value in much the same way that we set the value, the slope, and the acceleration, which of course affected the outgoing value. So we're going to adjust, we're going to check out what the incoming value is. So key4.in accel, that value is 34. I want to change that to something like 88. So I'm going to say key4.set in accel, and I give it a value of 88. And voila, nothing happened. Once again, in order for this to happen, we actually have to use the set keyframe in the parameter in order to get the changes to stick in. So I'm going to type rz.set keyframe, and my keyframe is key4. Okay, now we saw that made a big, huge jump there. I hope I got a chance to see that. Now, the last method I wanted to go over is the as code. Now, as code does pretty much as you expect. It dumps out the value of the keyframe in Python commands in order to regenerate them. And I'm going to output this keyframe as code. And we see a whole bunch of kakamaka of Python expressions rolled off right on there. Once again, if you write them out, it will be much more literal in an external file. However, these commands are the commands that we were using just now in order to set these keyframes. Now, in order to wrap things up, what we covered in this session was the who.keyframes class, which are only available from the object parameters using the keyframes method. Once you have access to the keyframes, you may query or set the outgoing or the incoming acceleration, slope, or value components of that keyframe. Now in the next session, we'll cover Houdini digital assets. We'll see you in the next lesson.